When I do reports for banks and the like, where you're faced with companies that may have made a wrong decision, and can they turn around from that decision? Can they make a go of it or not?
Andrew Hurd is an experienced non-executive company director and one of the founders of Hurd Phillips Lieberenz, a boutique chartered accounting practice located in Adelaide that provides corporate insolvency, restructuring and forensic accounting services.
This is really geeky, but sometimes numbers for me are really creative.
Andrew has a deep interest in restructuring and turnaround assignments. This interest carries through to his directorship roles where organisational transformation is occurring.
Hi, I'm Andrew Hurd from Hurd Phillips Lieberenz. Join us on Accountants on Purpose podcast.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bartholomeusz from YouLegal. The Accountants on Purpose podcast showcases inspiring accountants who are leaders in their field.
And then it just came to me like a bolt of blue.
What makes them tick?
Love it.
How did they get to where they are?
I want to inspire.
And what do they do now for their teams, their clients, and the world? What was your favourite sport as a child?
I played lots of sport as a youngster, and I guess my interests changed over time. As a really young lad, I was actually pretty good at swimming. So I had a fairly good career as an underage swimmer, but that's really, really time consuming.
Yes.
And ultimately, probably the passion wasn't there enough to take it to the next level, although I did have some success. Then football.
Yep.
And I played lots of football as a youngster all the way to I stopped playing football when I was 33 years old, so a long time. And the sport that I guess I regret the most is cricket. I played cricket at school. I was a silly cricketer. I thought that every ball needed to be hit over the boundary line, and so I was have a good day and then several bad days and then a good day, and it was a lost opportunity for me because my father was actually a really good cricketer. So I was fabulous in as much as I had a great bowler to bowl at me all the time, and I fancied myself as a batsman. So weekends at home, Dad would spend hours playing cricket with me because he liked bowling and I liked batting. So
it's a perfect
a
match.
lost opportunity. Yeah, it's a perfect match.
Where did you grow up?
Adelaide, born and bred, always been here. Is it a regret? In part, in not as well. My brother moved away to Melbourne and has a career there in building. But no, I stayed in Adelaide. Happy with it. I actually really like Adelaide. And you go interstate and you think, oh yeah, is that nice? Is it not? No, actually, I like where I live. I like the people around me. So, yeah.
And the lifestyle.
Yeah, my word.
Very lucky. If you could speak another language other than English, what would it be and why?
It would be German, which is an unusual language to say because it's not very sexy.
It's very hard.
It is very hard. And my why I gravitate to that is it comes from a great little holiday story with my wife. Before kids, before married, backpacking through Germany. And my wife doesn't really like pork.
Okay.
And if you've probably been there, you can get wursts from everywhere that you'd go. And my wife would be looking at the wurst stand and say, oh, that one looks, is that chicken? Is that chicken? And they go, yeah, chicken. And so Lynn would be given this wurst and bite and say, it's pork. I asked, was it chicken? And it was chicken. And it's been pork. So I don't understand where this is at. It probably went for 3 days. And we were sitting in the mall in Munich and this is like before mobile phones are great and things like that. And I was flicking through the phrase book thinking, oh no. Chicken is pronounced Hühnchen. Pork is pronounced Schinken. So we were getting exactly what we were asking for.
They were telling her the truth.
Yes, but we didn't know what to ask for.
Oh my goodness.
Apart from all those other funny words with 2 dots and I don't know how you would even pronounce them. So German.
And
then I'd know
40 letter words. Yes. It's a tricky one. That reminded me of my daughter who loves bacon.
Yeah.
So Lynn would not get along with her probably. My mum brought some pork round the other day and I said, oh, how was dinner? Because I was out and she goes, oh, I loved that chicken.
Yes.
Like, guess what?
Guess what?
It wasn't chicken. It was the same as your bacon. So it makes a lot of sense that you love it.
Indeed.
So along with being an accountant, you've been a non-executive company director for a large span of your career. What inspires you to get involved with a company on that level?
So it started a long time ago. Back in the 90s, I was relatively new in insolvency and learning my trade, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And I really began to feel that every business that I ever saw was going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, this can't be terribly helpful. Surely there's businesses that are profitable. And I responded initially to an ad that the Institute of Chartered Accountants had placed for a finance director for the South Australian Little Athletics Association.
Yes.
Now, I didn't have children at the time and they weren't involved with athletics, but it was sport.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh, I'll give this a crack. And had 5 great years on that. And I think people that are interested in a director career might find that if their experiences would be likely to be similar to mine, that a job creates another job, creates another job. So out of that role, I gained broad experience, which helped me understand strategic planning and visions and goals and members and how to deal with them. And then not long after that, I was given another role on the school that my children went to, which was probably a role that I'd aspired to even when I was at school, to get onto the board of the school, which was an achievement. Then out of that role, I was asked to join a really serious board of quite a significant not-for-profit organisation. And that's really where I think my learning as an accountant improved, and therefore my ability as a service provider improved, because I really got to know or to understand that I needed to get deep into the numbers, understand the rationale for businesses and turnaround strategies that actually occur every day in businesses without the need for any form of personal insolvency or corporate insolvency arrangements. Turnaround or restructuring is a natural part of every business. And I think without those board experiences, I probably never would have been able to draw on those learnings that I think help me when I do reports for banks and the like, where you're faced with companies that may have made a wrong decision, and can they turn around from that decision? Can they make a go of it or not? And then being on the board, I've benefited so much from learnings from other people. There are people, and I won't name them, I've sat across the board table with that have just had thoughts, and I think, wow, why didn't I think of that? That's a really smart person. But of course, that was a person that might have had wonderful expertise in HR or marketing or so forth. So we all are built with our own skill sets, and being on the board has helped me probably expand.
And it also gives you an opportunity to be part of a team, and hopefully a high performance team that you're not in your ordinary day-to-day work. And I've really enjoyed every CFO that I've worked with. They've all had their different traits, and like all accountants, we tend to be a little bit conservative, but in their own ways, they're creative. And this is really geeky, but sometimes numbers for me are really creative. Yes.
You work through changing assumptions and see what that does to cash flow and things like that. And some of these
and just
CFOs,
those little percentage changes that can make a huge
that flow through, and working with other accountants in those experiences has been really professionally fulfilling. So I've got as much out of it as maybe they've got out of it as well. So it's something that I like doing. It's something I'll continue to do.
Great. You're one of the founders of Phillips Lieberenz, and your practice specialises in insolvency. Where does your passion for helping businesses that are in financial difficulty come from?
Maybe I might not look it, but I'm probably a bit of a socialist at my heart. Whereas I do have this feel that we do need to try to help the people that we can't, that can't be helped or can't help themselves. And I guess my interest started in that, and the reason for Phillips, and this might be a bit awkward to say, but we started our practice and saying, our practice is a practice that Anthony and I, we want to give a shit. So if it matters, we want to make it matter. And there are plenty of assignments that we've had over the career, and there's 2 in the office at the moment that we have right now that are awkward, and we need to invest our time, and in some cases we're even contemplating having to invest some of our firm's money into actually making a better return. There's a better return to be made from, for example, doing some maintenance on a unit that we might need to sell that will certainly get a multiple effect on it, and that will improve creditor turns. Nobody else is going to fund it, but we can see the benefit in it. So having that control over your own destiny, creating your own firm, and being able to, I guess, live or deliver what you believe in.
Yeah, like have your values and your partner's values spread out into the world, which if you're a part of a larger organisation, you can't necessarily do.
Well, true. In a larger accounting firm, and there are too many other stakeholders in those decisions. So ideally, being a specialist insolvency practice where I can step out of my office into Anthony's office and say, "This is what I'm thinking about. You cool with that?" And I walk over to Mark's office and say, "Mark, this is what I'm thinking about doing. It might cost us $6,000, but we'll get it back. It might take us 3 months. You cool with that?" Yep, that's good. Okay, let's
move forward.
Let's implement it. Let's do it
quicker as well.
Yeah, couldn't do that in a big organisation, but that's controlling your own destiny was important to me and Anthony and Mark, who came on after as well.
Yes.
So yeah,
one thing we find in our practice is that people who come to us aren't always at their best, and that's probably similar for you. Is it very difficult to deal with clients who are in very stressful situations?
I probably see clients at their worst day of their life. There's a funny little quirk that I heard once about people wanting to approve liquidators' fees, and there's probably only one thing worse that they would prefer to do, and that's to pay for a coffin. And so I see people on a day that's a bit like that to them. Their business that they've invested themselves in, that their family home supports, that the income comes to pay for their kids' school fees or whatever, is all at peril. And it's a really nasty day. And I guess I've done it for a while, and I can talk them through that and say, today is actually going to be a really average day. Tomorrow's probably not going to be much better, but the day after, it's going to be better, and it will get better the day after that. And I can say that because directors that we see are burdened by this problem that
they have been for a long time.
And
it's not like it's a surprise.
No, ultimately it's not. And I come as a stress relief.
Yeah.
It's like they hand the keys of the car to me, and yes, I'll drive it for a bit, but you don't have a problem with that tomorrow or the next day, because your problems become my problems. I was talking to a dear old man just yesterday, 71 years of age. He's asked me to come out next week to make the appointment, and he's been surviving on his pension because the business doesn't generate enough income. And it's like, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning worrying about, am I going to be able to pay the rent next month? And not, I can solve that problem. So I do see people in a very stressed situation, but I can say that it does get better. And yeah, it actually is important to me that we can help people as well, not just the money side of things, but when I terminate staff, which is a necessary consequence of a business ceasing to trade, I do actually try to spend a bit of time talking to them about where they can go for money, and our little kit pack that we give out to employees when we terminate them actually has a little brochure about Lifeline and things like that, which are dreadfully important, because mental health is quite popular to talk about now, but it's a very real thing that we need to be conscious of. And certainly, we make a fair effort at doing our best for stakeholders in that respect. Yeah.
Are there any obvious warning signs for businesses that are heading in the wrong direction? Are there things that people can catch before it's too late?
There are so many warning signs that are available to businesses, but it's up to the directors or the advisors or the other stakeholders in them to recognise that they're problems and they're warning signs coming forward. So I look back in a job, any job that we do, we have to reflect on how the company or why the company failed. And we lodge a report with ASIC on the causes of failure. Most causes of failure, in my experience, are a strategy or risk or lack of risk assessment based. So you'll make an investment decision in buying an asset and you've never even thought about is it going to generate a fair income return on it. The first stage of potential recognition comes from when you are struggling to pay the bills that you can easily put off. So everyone will want to keep their suppliers paid because they're the features that generate the work for you. But if you ever are a director and thinking, I might have to defer superannuation this month, I'll pick it up next month. Or maybe I can't make tax this month, I'll pick it up next month. If I can get businesses at that early stage of recognition and talk to them about the causes of underperformance, then there's turnaround and there's hope. Because I find businesses, they get into that strife where they're starting to rob Peter to pay Paul, the gap only ever gets bigger. And you would be staggered to know that most people tend to come and see us when they're on stop credit with half of their suppliers, haven't got any money to pay wages next week, and
it's
they think
a crisis.
Yeah, but they think they might be insolvent. And the answer is this has been looming for a long time. So a lot of what we do is to talk to other accountants about the warning signs of insolvency. There are plenty of little warning signs. Our website, for example, puts up a little checklist of 10 items that you can check a box to. I don't collect any data of it. It's risk rating.
Yeah.
So looking at those sorts of things helps focus on whether there's a problem. 1 or 2 indicators of insolvency indicate that maybe your business needs to turn around. More indicators than that means you've got a problem that really needs a deep resolution. So missing tax payments, on stop supply with creditors, having credit rejections, bouncing checks, not that checks are that open, but not being able to release checks because you're at your limit. Having your banker talk about not happy to renew your facilities at the same rate. Those sorts of hallmarks. Lack of profit is one thing, but lack of cash flow is the key on that. Profit can be manipulated. Cash flow is what's really important, and keeping a focus on that. The numbers of people that talk to me that haven't got their financial accounts up to date. The old adage is your accounts are like the keel on a ship. They guide you in the way. Well, many small business operators see maintaining financial statements when they're already out of money is just an expense that they can defer. And doing that helps you, or prevents you, realistically, having an option in your quiver in your kit, so to speak, of armory of how to turn around the solution. So plenty, but it starts at strategy. Wrong strategy, wrong risk assessment. And that's the path.
And is that something that you think it would be useful or helpful for people to get their accountants involved in earlier? Like, do accountants have that risk? Like, do they have the knowledge of risks more broadly than just numbers? In my experience, there are different layers of accountants, or different accountants can get the best accountants are close to their clients. They are involved with their clients' business decisions and act almost in that capacity as an advisory board member. But that takes a commitment, and it takes time, and it takes, therefore, fees. And willingness.
And willingness. But those sorts of accountants that have a deeper involvement with their clients, they're probably not the clients that I'll ever see because they're the ones that are thriving. They're the ones that are doing really well. At the other end of the spectrum are the accountants that you might see annually just to do that pesky tax return. And then it even gets deferred while making a loss, so why put a tax return in any event? And if you're only using an accountant at that level as a form filler, you're never going to get anywhere near the level of work and benefit that you'll get from a proper experienced accountant. So somewhere is a happy place in the medium, where you can provide a good service and at an appropriate price, but you understand enough of the business. And if your advisor, and all of us in the accounting profession understand risk, we certainly understand numbers and understand how we can build a cash flow. And they're the 3 elements of a strategy. I'm going to invest in buying that light. Well, how much is that light going to cost me? Am I going to be able to employ it meaningfully to generate a return greater than the cost of it? Yes, that's a good business decision. So using your accountant too, because many people are really good at their trade. They're not necessarily good at their accounts, and that's why you need the accountant.
Totally. I am on board. How can accountants be better apprised of other risks their clients face, not just the number side of the business?
I think it's forming a relationship. A relationship where your client doesn't consider you a cost centre, but a profit centre. So working your way into a relationship where you are involved in business discussions will help you get ahead of the game in terms of helping your client avoid perils, identify risks, etc. That would be my greatest advice, and it takes some time to develop those relationships. Flipping it onto the board structure, if I'm on a board, the first meeting I probably won't know too much. I'll know a little bit more, but probably by the fourth board meeting, I know where we're going here. I know what we're trying to achieve, and I'm confident enough to be able to make suggestions or recommendations and so forth. So it takes us all a little bit of time to get them on board, but if you're onboarded, then the benefits will flow.
Definitely. Who or what has been the biggest influence in your life?
Interesting question. I can't tell you that there is any one person that has been influential in my life. I take little bits from everyone. So certainly my father. My father was an accountant, and it's funny, he's passed away now, but I see myself in him. But it's not just that. It could be anything from, I'm my youngest daughter's football coach, and I this year was totally inspired by a lovely girl who was my ruck. So this is under 12s girls football. And I sent this lovely girl into battle every week. And she would be holding an injured leg or an injured hip or an injured, and I say at three-quarter time, do you need me to swap you off? No, I'm into it. I'm good. I'm good. And that's inspiring. Here is a girl that's 11, 12 years old who just so willingly wants to go, what's not to learn? What's not to grow about that? It could be, I could be inspired, for example, last weekend. My wife's a singer, and she sang with the State Opera pop-up chorus in Italian. Now, she doesn't know how to speak Italian, but she learnt to speak to sing these songs. And I sit there down at Netley and listening to this chorus going as she's reeling out some arias in Italian. I think that's just so awesome, and that's my wife, and my children are there, and and that's what you can do. You want to make an effort, you want to try. So much you can do. So I get inspired by little elements of everything rather than one great thing. It's life's a learning experience, and you learn from everyone.
It's true. Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently?
I never intended to be an accountant.
Oh, really? What did you intend to be?
So I'm pleased I am an accountant. Through most of my schooling, I was convinced that my future, I was going to Duntrend and become a military officer.
Wow.
And for reasons I wasn't able to pursue that career. I then thought, I might be in advertising. And in fact, I did work experience in advertising. And for my sins, actually, in my work experience, I designed the Marvellous Maya logo.
Did you?
That was just... But I decided through that experience that no, advertising probably isn't for me either. So I thought, well, I better do what Dad did. And now I look back and I think you may not put the connections together, but maybe I do in my own strange way. Being a military officer and what I do, I think is quite similar. I wasn't into military for the war aspects. It was the coordination. It was the direction of activity and the coordinating of effort for a goal. That's what I do now. I might have to coordinate asset sales and legal negotiations. About it. And
you have time limits.
Absolutely. And so I actually do see it, what I do and the way I plan out the strategy on a job is probably not different than I might have had I been a tank commander or something like that. So a different course to the course that I thought that I would, but actually quite similar in some respects.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that I should have?
I'm a funny person in some respects. I live my life by a number of mantras. And some of those mantras I've learnt, some of them I've read. And I try to use them throughout my working day. So the first one that really is important to me, that is very much an accountant thing, that I, as a chair of finance committees at board meetings, everyone seems to be preoccupied with the profit and loss position. What's our profit and loss? And particularly when I'm talking to non-accountants, I say, if there's only one report that you want to look at, be it the profit and loss balance sheet or statement of cash flows, watch the statement of cash flows. Because in my view, profit is for vanity, cash flow is for sanity. Now, you've got to understand that's the business that I live in. If I haven't got cash in the bank, I can't pay my bills. If I can't pay my bills, I'm insolvent. So I focus everything on cash flow, making sure that every month when I'm looking at the financial statements, are we generating a good operating cash flow? Cash flows for sanity. I learned another one that I reflect on a lot, and I reflect on this also in my board meetings and meetings with clients, everything. And it happened to me before I was a liquidator, when I was just a young lad out on a job. And it was a funny little job that we went out to down the Port Road, and there were the proprietor of the business was an old Italian man, but probably a very wise man. His business had just failed, and the people that we were there with were talking lots and so forth, and I was just sitting and listening. And then I asked a few questions, and he turned around and he said to me, "A smart man listens before talking." And I thought, that's right. So I'd make a habit now, whenever I interview somebody, be it a director for the first time, is you tell me what's bothering you, and then I'll help you with the answers. Because there's no point me rolling out a boilerplate answer to an assumed question. Listen first, answer second. There's a quote that the Dalai Lama has that's quite similar to that says something to the effect of, when you speak, you repeat what you know. When you listen, you learn. So very similar in that aspect. So they're just the little mantras that I use in my professional career in any event.
They're beautiful and good to kind of ground you and come back to.
Yeah, my word.
From time to time. Yeah. What would you tell 18-year-old Andrew?
Have more confidence in yourself, young man. I don't think, and this is something that I learnt from my uncle, who once told me that he never thought that he became a man until his father passed away. Why? Probably because we were all a bit subservient to our parents. And I wish that I had more confidence in myself as an 18-year-old. Speak out a little bit more, not in a way that was affronting to people, but have confidence to express a view, because your view is valued, and we probably don't know when we're 18 that our view is valued. But I listen to my guys at work all the time, and particularly in days like these that we live in with changing technology and so forth. These guys know things that I would never know. I'm 53 years old. A 23-year-old knows much more about certain things, IT related, etc. than I.
And
exactly.
Those sorts of things.
So as an 18-year-old, your voice is valued. So Andrew, listen more to yourself and have confidence.
Thanks for coming in today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We're going to keep this conversation going in our private Facebook group, Accountants on Purpose. You're welcome to join us there.